Hey guys, how's it going? It's Sebastian. Today I'm going to be talking about how I made a clone for Bleu De Chanel. Okay, so I will say right here I have them on the strips so I can kind of smell them right next to each other. So right off the bat, let's give them a smell and compare. So I would say that my clone is alright. It's probably maybe 70% similar. It's a lot more ginger than in the original, the real stuff, and a little bit less citrus. So a little bit less of a lemon and more grapefruit. And I think that's just because I prefer the grapefruit molecules and I don't have a whole lot of materials that are great for lemon top notes other than like lemon essential oil, which if you ever do perfumery, you know that lemon essential oil can really flatten out your other materials. So let's go into how I did it. So the way that I tackled it is, first off, you gotta smell the original. When you're making any sort of a clone, you have to smell the original. You have to look at the notes, the Fragrantica notes, while you're smelling it. If you don't know what Fragrantica is, it's a great website. It'll tell you all the notes and reviews and stuff like that for every fragrance pretty much imaginable. So you look at the base, you look at the middle or the heart notes, and then you look at the top notes. And as you're smelling, you kind of get a feel for how much of each one there is. And you start thinking about what materials you want to use for it. So this, I mean, it takes a long time to sort of understand your materials that you use when you're doing perfumery. But after a little bit, you can kind of start getting ideas of, oh, they probably use this. They probably use that. Yeah, again, much less ginger in the original than what I did. Mine's very gingery. So this is number 11. I did 12 iterations, so it's going to take a lot of time trying to get it right. But you look at the notes, you start from the base, and you just work through it and think of what ingredients you're going to try and use for them. And then from there, it's pretty much just trial and error, seeing, constantly smelling the original and then smelling your composition of what you're making at the same time, comparing it, seeing what needs to be added. So what I ended up using was, for the cedar notes and for the ambery kind of base notes, I used Cedramber, which is great. It's very diffusive, great material. I used Floralozone, and I'm not sure if the original used Floralozone. I probably would say they didn't. But what it did is it just added a little bit of diffusion, a little bit of lift in my base. So I used Floralozone, and then I used Calone 10% solution. So basically what Calone does is it can also offer some diffusive properties to it. And then I ended up using just a frankincense essential oil. So I used a natural for the incense accord that we all know so well. And then I used a wood accord of mine that I had already created beforehand, prefabricated, mostly using synthetics, but I can go into that at another time. So then I used, for the middle, I used Clove essential oil at 10% instead of the nutmeg that you would see as a note in the middle. Clove essential oil is pretty much all going to be eugenol. It's like maybe 70 or 80% eugenol. So essentially I just used eugenol for that kind of a spicy note to it. And then I used also a spice accord that I got from Perfumer's Apprentice, which has a bit of cinnamon, a bit of nutmeg, and a bit of clove, and a little bit of ginger. So it's like a pumpkin spice sort of a thing, but a little bit more ginger. So it gives that kind of clean scent to it. So I use spice, 10%, and then I use Geraniol. Geraniol is it's sort of like an artificial geranium, but it also has a citrusy aspect to it, so it helps build up the citruses that are in your top notes. I use Jasmine, just a natural jasmine, which I think is really nice. It's a very heady floral. And then I used Hedione, which is sort of it's deoxydihydrojasminate, so it's like a material that was made to enhance the jasmine. It has sort of a jasmine aspect to it, but the material itself doesn't have very much scent. And then I use Fructalate just to build up the fruity aspects of the top notes, and to add a little bit of a lift and diffusion as well. So the top notes, as you know, in the original Bleu De Chanel, it has pink pepper, it has grapefruit, it has mint in it, it has some lemon in it. So I used, of course, pink pepper at 10%. I wouldn't go too heavy with that. I used 0.015 grams in my composition. It'll be different for you, but I only used 1 drop of this because it can really flatten your fragrance. Then I used, for my grapefruit, I used a mixture of Methyl Pamplemousse, which I talked about in one of my other videos. A great artificial grapefruit. It doesn't have too much of a fake smell to it. It has a little bit of a floral aspect to it. It can kind of enhance your florals, and it can also enhance the wood, which I like to use it for that purpose. Same with grapefruit essential oil. I used a little bit of that just to enhance the woods and to give it that nice citrusy top. And then for the mint, I actually didn't use mint essential oil. I actually used Freskomenthe at 10%, which is an aroma chemical that has the cooling aspect, that kind of cold aspect of mint, without having the actual mint. So it's one of the chemicals that's found in mint, but it's not all of them. So it gives it sort of that nice cool cleanness to it without making it too heavy or anything like that. So Freskomenthe. And then I used lemon essential oil. I only used 1 drop because I didn't want to overdose it. I didn't have a material in the middle or top that would be nice artificial lemon. So I just used the EO. And then I used a white grapefruit accord that I got from Perfumer's Apprentice. Again, I get all my materials from Perfumer's Apprentice. And then I used aldehyde C9 at 1%, which can have citrus boosting aspects to it. I used 2 drops of that. So really, again, you don't want to overdo it with the aldehydes. They're very strong, extremely strong. Even at 1%, they can have massive influence over what your composition is going to be like. And then I added ISO E Super, which you might know already is a super commonly used material in modern fragrances. It just has sort of a cedary, smoothing characteristic to it. It can be overdosed extremely highly. Some fragrances have up to like 50% of it. And then I used galaxolide, which is just a nice clean musk. And then I added more Hedione. So it ended up being a little bit quieter, but a little bit softer when I added those things. And I was fine with that. I don't want anything that's too crazy, too much of a bomb. But if I had to do anything, I would have taken away some of that spice accord, because it does end up being very gingery, which kind of misses that blue aspect of the Bleu De Chanel. In some of my other iterations, I used dihydromercenol, which I've talked about in some of my other videos, but I decided not to because sometimes if you're going a certain direction, adding DHM can just really derail it. So I ended up not using that. In some of my other iterations, some of the other ingredients you could look into, I would say just that Cedramber was really good. My wood accord was really great. I kept the Fructalate. It added sort of a weird fruity vibe to it, but I think it was fine. The Frankincense, go easy on the frankincense. I originally had used some cedar essential oil also because it can be quite strong and it can add a little bit of the lift of that woody note, but I didn't end up doing that in this final iteration of it. And you come across, yeah, it ends up being a nice maybe 70% cologne. So I wouldn't even call it a clone, but inspired by Bleu De Chanel. And if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to do some more like tutorials going in depth of how I make fragrances and how to find your materials, what each material does. So go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.